Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Saturday, March 31st, and you are listening to episode 150 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So yes, you heard that right. I am recording this today's episode on Saturday, March 31st, rather than Sunday, April 1st, because obviously it's Easter here in the United States. It must be Easter everywhere, right? Regardless, it's Easter here in the United States, so I will be under family obligations all day on Easter. I'll actually be traveling to my parents' house for Easter with the family, so there is no way that I would be able to record a episode on the 1st of April on Easter. So I'm actually recording it, like I said, Saturday the night before. And speaking of Saturday the night before, if hopefully you guys are all listening to this show on Monday, April 2nd. And if so, I hope you guys enjoyed the little April Fool's episode that I put together and released yesterday. I had a lot of fun kind of putting that stuff together. As you can see, there is no such thing as a Planetside 2 cruise coming up. NZ Maxes are not getting buffed. Construction is not coming to the PS4, at least not yet. And obviously the courtesy flush code does not work in game because there is no courtesy flush horn anymore for Planetside 2. You can't get it. If you have it, you're good. No one else can get it going forward in game. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed that little April Fool's episode that I put together. Other than that, my week's been pretty normal. You know, lots of Planetside 2, lots of other stuff going on. I spent a lot of time putting together that April Fool's episode. So, again, if you missed it, go back and listen to it. It's listed under the Join Combat podcast, not the Instant Action podcast. Again, I had fun doing it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But that out of the way, what is in store for this week's show? Well, first, I have the March 27th Dev Livestream to cover, which had everything from the ASP reveal to construction changes to what to expect next in Planetside 2. After that, I'm going to do a deeper dive into the ASP and the options that you can actually unlock if you do this. Then I'm going to cover the March 29th PTS update, which brought the ASP along with a bunch of other changes to the game. And then I'm going to finish up the show by listing the new implants that were teased on the Dev Livestream. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. Like I said, first up this week is the March 27th Dev Livestream. Looking back on this, before I even get into what they discussed, I think that the devs, Nick Silva in particular, have done an excellent job meeting the suggestion, or meeting the, what's the word that I'm looking for? Promise. Yeah, that's simple. The promise that he made at the beginning of the year to do more dev live streams. We've gotten one, as far as I can remember, January, February, and now we've gotten one in March as well. They were few and far between in 2017, and I'm very excited to see that they've done so many so far in 2018, and hopefully that continues. And they got to realize, looking at the numbers that are actually watching the live streams, they're getting a ton of people and a ton of feedback from them. So I hope that they're getting as much out of it as we are, the viewers or the players or listeners, whatever, are getting out of it. But with that out of the way, we did get some stuff, like I said, on this live stream. And the first thing, obviously, is what ASP stands for. And that is, it stands for the Advanced Specialization Program. I'll talk about that a little bit further because that was just the first thing that they mentioned on the show. Next, they showed off some of the new battle rifles. We've seen Doku's models already, but they're actually live, or not necessarily live. They're going to be coming to PTS at some point. But they showed them live on the live stream. We got to see all three of them. The sounds for the NC1 are in place. The sounds for and the rotating barrel of the TR1 are in place. The VS1 is in place, but it doesn't have sounds yet. They're currently working on that. They did announce that they're looking on giving the NC1 a special new mechanic called piercing, which may allow the battle rifle to shoot through one target to actually hit a second target. That's kind of interesting. They announced that the TR version is going to be a full auto weapon, so none of this one-click, one-shot deal. Granted, it does have a bit of a delay between firing that they showed on stream, and they don't have any information yet on what the VS1 is going to do, what its special ability will be. But the models all look really beautiful. They're within the standards that Doku has put out regarding all the weapons that he's done so far. Like I said, I love the way that they look. I can honestly say that I've never used a battle rifle in game to date, but because these look so neat, and maybe with this piercing mechanic on NC, it might be time for me to pick one up and play around with it. Next, they showed off what the new class-specific implants that are coming look like and what some of their names are. That was about it. They didn't go into each individual one or give any information about what any of them are. So really, it's just speculation at this point, and I'm going to do a deeper dive on those at the end of the show today. But after that, they brought on the newest member of the Planetside 2 team, and this is Drew Matt, or DB Drew, as you know, on Reddit. And he announced that he'd been working for DBG for about the past 5 months or so. He talked about previous places he worked, like Wargaming Seattle, and he announced that he was both a tester and a designer, and worked on did things for Team Fortress and Overwatch. So he definitely has a FPS background before coming to Daybreak Games and the Planetside 2 team. But again, they didn't talk too much about him before moving on to the new construction stuff that they showed off. And they gave the description that they're looking for bases to actually be blockades going forward and not so much fortresses like they are now. Some ways to make those changes is they're going to make walls no longer invincible. They showed off things like the Pain Spire, the wall portion, the flail, the router. They also talked about how they're going to be removing hives from the game altogether. And they also talked about the offensive element to ant lasers that has been added in the most recent PTS updates. And again, they showed off a lot of this stuff on live, so you could actually see how it worked. They showed a lot of the flail incoming shots happening. And I think they realized, and I had the same feeling, that I don't feel like the flail is doing enough damage. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a buff to the damage to the flail coming at some point down the line. After they did some work with construction, they moved on to the ASP itself, or the Advanced Specialization Program, and they announced that it is basically a prestige system for Planetside 2. And funny, because that's what I hoped that the ASP wasn't on last week's show, but clearly I was 100% wrong, or not 100% wrong, but my sentiments were incorrect, or my feelings were incorrect, and this is actually what we're going to be getting now. And I messaged Rel about this also, and I said that I was excited for the ASP, and he was quick to come back and say, yeah, but you said you don't want an ASP system, you don't want a prestige system on last week's podcast, and he's 100% right. So my response to him was that I did not like the overarching idea of a prestige system in Planetside 2, and that would be just the fact of taking the prestige system, or taking the current BR system, making it only available to BR 120 players, and allow them to start over at BR 1 and unlock camos and things like that. That's not the prestige system that I wanted to see. The prestige system that they're talking about here is resetting battle rank. It's only going to be available if you're battle rank 100 or higher. It's going to reset it. You're going to keep everything that you have, but you're going to go back to battle rank 1 and also ASP rank 1. It's going to cost 10,000 certs in order to enroll in this. It's also going to be free if you're a member, so that was another big plus. I said that they've showed off a membership perk, which we haven't seen in a while. And basically, for every 25 battle ranks that you earn, you're going to unlock 1 point in the ASP program. You're also going to get 1 point for free by enrolling yourself in the ASP. Now, you can't circle around a second time if you hit BR 128 a second time, so you can never gain more than 5 points in the ASP system itself. And again, these are some of the things that I said to Rel, saying, well, this is why I'm a little more excited about what you've done rather than just a straight up prestige system that doesn't include what you can do with these prestige points or the ASP points themselves. Now, the ASP points are going to be used to unlock special additional abilities on the individual classes themselves, or there's a bunch of generic ones as well. And I'm going to do a deeper dive into those a little bit later on this week's show as well. So again, I was very excited to hear about what the ASP is and that it's more than just a simple prestige system. It's a prestige system and a way to unlock some special perks for your individual classes and things like that. It's very rewarding if you're an existing or a long-time player like myself. After they did some talk about the prestige system or the ASP, they said, well, what are we working on next for Planetside 2? Some of the things that they're talking about next are mentor squads, some squad UI changes, some pre-meltdown continent events, that they're going to be changing the meltdown alerts to a winner-take-all type system, that they're also going to be redesigning the entire spawn system starting in April. So if you're listening to the show, this is when the month that they're going to start redesigning the spawn system itself. And they did say that unfortunately outfit progression is something that they will be working on more towards the end of 2018, not a current thing that they're going to be working on. So you got to figure the mentor squads, squad UI, pre-meltdown continent events, and the spawn system are all the things that they're going to be working on heading on through spring and into the summer. And then I expect outfit progression to be a fall-winter type deal that they're going to be working on. They did also confirm that everything that they've talked about regarding the ASP system, the Doku's battle rifles, and they're all coming to the PS4 as well in tandem with the PC. They may not drop on the exact same day, but again, you can expect all that stuff on the PS4 as well. After that, they opened up the floor to some questions, and some of the bigger questions asked were about optimization. And the generic response that Nick gave was that it's a secondary effort, but not something that they're completely ignoring. So what that means to me is don't expect them to do a huge optimization pass like a OMFG type event, Operation Make Faster Game type event like they did a few years back, but they're not going to ignore optimization altogether. Someone else asked the status of the Asian server, and Nick said that yes, they're still trying to spin that Asian server up, but they're running into the standard issues you would expect when you're talking about launching a new server. Like, what are the logistics to getting that server online? What are the logistics to allowing server transfers for a class of people? And whether they're going to take it or not, and what the time frame is. So there's still a lot of work that must be done before they can get that Asian server up and running. Other than that, that was basically it for the live stream. They did giveaways as they always do, but good stuff. Like I said, I'm very proud of them for continuing to meet that promise they made originally to do more dev live streams. I think it's nothing but good stuff for the community to see what they're actually working on. Granted, I'm sure that there's some time to get everybody together, get everything together that they're going to talk about that they'd much rather be using to work on continuing to create and make Planetside 2 better. But again, I think this is goodwill within the community itself that they need to continue. And like I said at the beginning, I hope that they're getting as much out of it as we are getting out of it. And with that, let's move on to our second topic this week, which is more about the ASP program. Now, like I said, ASP stands for the Advanced Specialization Program. Just to reiterate, it's only going to be available if you're BR 100 plus. It's going to reset your battle rank, so that does mean if you are BR 100 or 101, 105, anywhere before BR 120, if you choose to accept the ASP, you are going to be frozen at whatever rank that you reached and reset back to battle rank 1, ASP 1. So this does mean if you are interested in earning all the ranks up to battle rank 120, which includes, the various titles and the various decals and stuff like that, you must do that before accepting the ASP system unlock. I know that that's not going to be not going to make some people happy. I've made BR 120 on my NC character, so it's fine with me. But I know that there is a subclass of players that aren't going to be happy with that. They're not going to remember where you are. So you're going to basically have to work on that again, work on it beforehand. Now, I didn't get clarification on whether if you go through the second time and if you start doing BR 101 to 120 that you're going to unlock it as you go around the second time. I want to assume that you will, but I don't know that is a fact for sure. If Nick or Rel or anybody else over at Daybreak Games listens to this show and wants to chime in on that, please feel free. Again, with the ASP system, you're going to be able to get 5 ASP points that you can spend on some of these advanced specializations for universal things and also for classes themselves. Again, you can never get more than 5. And I think a lot of people are going to end up getting 2, maybe 3. And then they're going to be like, oh, the grind is going to kill them. Because, just to get 3, you've got to hit BR 50 on the second round again. And I think the first 25 BRs are pretty quick. After 50, it starts to get a little grindy. 75 and 100 certainly does take some time. You got to put some effort into it. I expect that we're going to see a lot of guides on quick cert gains again. So I would certainly look to Reddit for a lot of those. I know I'll be looking for them myself. I was actually talking with a few people offline about it, and people are already making suggestions on fastest cert gain or fastest BR grind after ASP goes live. I'm not going to share them with you. You'll have to do the research yourself. Maybe after I finish my ASP all the way, then I'll release some of it. But I know a lot of people want to know exactly what these Advanced Specialization Program unlocks are going to be. And like I said, we have, 3, 4, 5, 6 different classes of them. We have universal ones, and these are unlocking sidearm primaries, which means you can use pistols or other sidearms in your primary slot on your character. Universal decoy grenades, which, like it says, unlocks decoy grenades across all your character, across all classes. A ground transport discount. Basically, you're going to get 20% off the nanite cost for ants and sunderers. A light air discount is going to do the same thing, 20% off your nanite cost for ESFs and Valkyries. You can unlock universal smoke grenades, which is just like decoy grenades, except smoke grenades for all classes. A light ground discount is going to give a 20% discount off on nanite costs for flashes and harassers. A combat armor discount is going to give you a 20% discount on nanites for lightnings and main battle tanks. And finally, a heavy air discount is going to give you a 20% off nanite cost for liberators and galaxies. So there's your 2, 4, 6, 8 different ones within the universal category. Next is the infiltrator category. It originally had 3 options. One of these was carbine access, which has since been removed, and I'll give some information about that later. But they do still have access to sticky grenades and also flash grenades. So if you have ever been an infiltrator who wanted to be able to sticky people or flash grenade people, you could have this chance coming forward. I can definitely see a lot of instances of those knifing montages of them now throwing a flash grenade in first and then going on absolutely epic knifing sprees. Moving along, though, to light assaults, they're going to be able to unlock submachine guns as their secondary slot and also gain access to concussion grenades. Combat medics are going to be able to unlock an access to battle rifles as a secondary. They're going to unlock access to carbines in their primary slot, and they're also going to be able to access concussion grenades. I already opined that perhaps we're going to see combat medics with carapace and concussion grenades out there now, and carbines. It could be a little ugly. Engineers are getting some as well. They're going to get access to having shotguns in their secondary loadout. They were also going to get access to LMGs, which has been since removed, and I'll explain that one as well. They're also going to get access to assault rifles, EMP grenades, and anti-vehicle grenades. Honestly, anti-vehicle grenades feels like one that should always have been given to the engineers. So good to see that they're going to continue to give that as an option in the ASP system. Finally, heavy assault. We're going to get access to add a second LMG to their secondary slot. Again, that has been removed. I'll explain a little more later. They're also getting access, though, to having a heavy weapon as their secondary. Heavy weapons are your lasher, your jackhammer, or your mini chain gun on your respective faction. And finally, flash grenade access on heavy assaults. Now, I just went through all those, and I just want to reiterate that to unlock each of those, it requires 1 ASP point each. So the most you'll ever get, like I said, is access to 5 of them. And I did see confirmation on Reddit that they are planning on adding a respec option in the future. They didn't announce if it was going to be a cert cost or a Daybreak cash cost, or if you some other membership perk. If I had my way, I'd say if you want to respec them all and to get them all back, that it should be either 10,000 certs or free for membership again. I just think that's a good idea. Again, I'm all for giving more membership perks. So there have been a few notes from the devs regarding this. First, Rel said that they are excluding all directive reward weapons from being used by ASP-based skills. So that means, for example, TR engineers won't be able to use the Butcher as a primary, and VS heavies won't be able to use a shotgun Beetlejuice option. I think that that's probably a good idea. I mean, I've only got the one unlocked, and it's on my engineer carbines. So, I mean, I could possibly have used my directive carbine on Infiltrator if they hadn't taken that away. But like I said, they said Rel also said that they're going to be pulling back InfoCarbines and heavy assault LMGs from the Prestige lineup because those two seem to be the most contentious additions. And he's absolutely right when he says that, because the biggest amount of complaints so far on Reddit and the forums have been infiltrators getting access to carbines. I mean, I was already dreaming about running an infil with a GD7F. And I could already see how I would be able to shred through people at close range with that. So it's probably best that they don't get that. I also think giving heavy assaults multiple LMGs is probably not the best idea. And I think even though I would have liked to have had it on my engineer, I think giving them access to LMGs might be able to put them as a shotgun in their secondary, and then you're giving engineers access to long range attack and a short range attack, which kind of eliminates a lot of the ability to fight against an engineer. So there certainly is that. In order to make it easier for people to test these, Nick did tweet that the XP multiplier has been set to 1,000 times on the Planetside 2 test server. So basically that means you should head over to the test server, play around a bit, and throw 99 bounties on somebody and collect that 1,000 times XP bonus, and you should be able to get yourself to battle rank 100 pretty quickly so that you can test out the ASP system on the test server. And finally, Nick said that we have noticed many of the community's concerns about ASP and the new player experience. We will be paying especially close attention to how ASP affects new players. The team is working on lots of great systems targeted for new players right now. So while he doesn't give too much information on exactly what they're doing, at least it shows that they are aware that the ASP system could be detrimental to new players. Because, I mean, let's face it, if you're a brand new player coming into Planetside 2 and you get killed by somebody running something on the ASP system, and perhaps you want to find out what it was that they used to kill you, so you might want to play that exact same play style, and then you're not able to. Like, for example, maybe an engineer with a shotgun in their secondary slot, or a combat medic with a carbine. Things like that. Who knows? It's a play style that a new player wouldn't have access to, and might confuse them and upset them, or I'm not sure. There's at least they have admitted that it could be an issue for new players and that they are going to continue to look at it. Again, it doesn't give us too much information, except for the fact that if they say they're going to look at it, you got to take them by the word that they're going to look at it until they mess something up, and then you can point fingers at them. The one thing that I think is missing from the Prestige system, and something I wish that they would think about, they took away the LMG secondaries from heavy assaults, and from engineers and stuff like that. I wish that they had lumped into this system the ability to use cross-faction weapons. Now, this would be a simple addition to each of the categories. Infiltrator, you just add one, cross-faction weapon access. And so any weapon that you're able to use on your NC Infiltrator, for example, you would be able to use the VS or the TR variants of those weapons. Now, this is something that was available in the original Planetside, because every time you killed somebody in Planetside, their body would fall to the floor, and you could actually loot their body, and it allowed you to put weapons into a locker and use them at a later date. Like, my NC character had a locker full of mini chain guns and lashers and ammo for them that I could run and use at any time. So I do think that the one thing missing from the Prestige system is that ability. Now, maybe it's difficult to do that. I don't know, but that would be one thing that I hope that they would consider adding to Planetside 2. I think it would add a lot of new ways to play the game. And it would also shut up a lot of players who complain that one faction's weapons are better than another's factions. So I'm hoping that cross-faction weapons might be something that we do see in the future. So that is the ASP, or the Advanced Specialization Program, in a nutshell. It's on PTS right now if you want to go and play around with it and check it out. I'm sure that we're going to see some tweaks to it. There's no date as to when this might go live, so I would love to see this going live in April or May at the latest. One thing we do have to worry about, though, is that day that it does go live. It's going to be quite interesting as everybody's speccing into it, spending their first points, and I bet there'll be a lot of new hackization charges for people who aren't aware that this went live and stuff like that. I'm sure Daybreak Games is ready for that, or are at least thinking of that. But, like I said at the beginning, I originally did not want this to be a prestige system, but again, it was because of the overarching idea of a prestige system. I think this is a little more fleshed out, does have some membership perks built into it, and could make the game a little more interesting going forward. So I'm willing to admit that I was wrong, and I'm looking forward to this in the game now. So after the Dev Livestream and all the ASP stuff, they still had time to throw a PTS update out there on March 29th, and I'm going to cover that for you right now. First, obviously, the ASP system is on the PTS. That's the biggest thing in this. But next, they had some different UI changes brought into the game itself. I'm not going to go over ASP again. I just did it. So they have reformatted the squad browser for better viewing. The leader's name is now listed first. Description is last. In a later update, they do plan to add a player's mentor rating, which will show to the left of their name. And creating squads will allow you to list them with a default description. It's interesting that they're talking about mentor rating because we don't know too much about the mentorship program, but clearly when people do stuff within the game, they're going to be able to get this mentorship rating, and therefore new players should be looking for that number because it's going to give you a better idea of who's better able to lead squads or do things like that. Again, we don't know what that stuff is. I'm sure we'll hear about that coming down the road, but it's interesting to see that they're already talking about it in the patch notes for the PTS. Next, there were some infantry updates added to the PTS, and the biggest thing is they are making improvements to most of the pistols in the game, and the goal is to keep them as desirable choices in the secondary weapon slot, because as you heard me read before, there are a lot of changes coming to the secondary weapons slot based on new things that you can put in there. Now, the buffs are primarily focusing on spammability from the hip, though some of the pistols are going to receive balances that help solidify their niche or differentiate them from some of the other alternatives. Starting off with the NS pistols, the Black Hand is getting a max damage range increase, an equip time increase as well, and that's to the drawing of the weapon. They are decreasing the hip fire, cone of fire while standing and crouching, and also while walking and crouch walking. Again, just to tighten up that cone a little bit more to make it more usable. The Showdown is also getting some changes. It's getting a max damage range as well, and it's also getting a refire rate while aiming down sight. That's getting decreased also. The Commissioner is getting a flat-out nerf. Like I said, the Black Hand got a bit of a nerf with the equip time. The Commissioner is also getting a nerf. Its equip time is going from 250 milliseconds to 450 milliseconds. So it's going to take almost twice as long to draw out your Commissioner. And really, let's be honest, it's because Commissioner is pretty much the only pistol that people use currently in the game. Sure, there's a subset of people like myself who prefer to use the Derringer pistol, but let's be honest, just about everybody else is using the Commissioner. And this is going to allow some of the other weapons to fit some niches and be used a little bit more than they currently are. The NS-45 Pilot, also getting some changes. Its cone of fire bloom is being reduced slightly. Also, the hip fire, cone of fire, while standing, crouch walking, walking, and crouch walking are all getting reduced as well. And it's also getting access to an extended magazine option that's going to increase its magazine size by 3. Moving on to the NC pistols, the mag shot is also getting a cone of fire bloom, hip fire, cone of fire bloom reduction. And again, those same cone of fire standing, crouching, or crouch walking reductions also. The Rebel getting the exact same stuff. The numbers a little different, but getting the same things. Desperado, numbers different, same things. The Mag Scatter is getting the same things as well, but it's also getting some aim down sights, cone of fire changes. It's also getting its vertical recoil increased a little bit while it aims down sight. And the laser sight attached to it is being renamed the MPL, and it's going to reduce hip fire pellet spread by a slight little bit. Finally, the Executive is also getting hip fire cone of fire bloom reductions, and also while walking or crouch walking. Moving on to the TR pistols, repeaters getting a lot of the same stuff. They're removing the semi-auto firing mode from it, though. The Emperor is also getting the hip fire, cone of fire bloom reductions, and also the reductions to the aim down sight cone of fire. The Inquisitor, same thing. President, same thing, except they're also removing the semi-auto firing mode from that as well. Moving on to the VS pistols, the Beamer is just getting a cone of fire bloom reduction when firing from the hip. The Manticore also is getting one, but it's also getting its max damage range extended out a little bit. Cerberus is getting its hipfire cone of bloom reduced, and also its hipfire cone of fire while walking or crouch walking reduced. Spiker, same thing, hipfire bloom reduction, and also an aim down sight bloom reduction, really big one actually. And finally, the Immortal is just getting a straight hipfire cone of fire bloom reduction. So there's a lot of pistol changes in there. Again, it's a lot of that hipfire cone of fire bloom, things like that. I'll be interested to test those out on PTS to see how they feel. I'd much rather test them on live rather than on PTS, but a lot of pistol changes. Moving along, though, there were also some vehicle adjustments added to the PTS, and those include one change to the Galaxy, which has had its resistance to flak made better. And what it's going to do is increase the kill time from a dual burster max from about 24 seconds to 36 seconds. And they give a comparison. Pre-Combined Arms Initiative, the time to kill was about 38 seconds. So the Galaxy should be able to live a bit longer when they're getting hit by flak. Liberator also had some changes. It got its bottom armor reduced from 50% to 20%, but it also received a flak explosive buff. Now, they're not taking belly armor into consideration, but the new flak resistance increases the Liberator's time to kill versus dual burster maxes again. It used to be 15 seconds. It's now 22 seconds. Now, since afterburners are also the default, it gives Liberators the ability to get in and out of combat a little easier, and they need to not necessarily lean on that belly armor as a defense mechanism anymore. So they've reeled in that benefit, which helps make air-to-air combat less tedious. Dalton shots to kill versus another Liberator's belly armor, for example, go from a 9-shot kill to a 6-shot kill. Valkyrie got some flak changes as well. Since they feel the Valkyrie is the vehicle most prone to keeping its belly armor facing a damaging source, they wanted to make it able to last longer. So they basically just giving it more breathing room in those close situations. Finally, there were a bunch of other miscellaneous changes and fixes. You can use the squad create command to create a squad for you. So basically, you don't have to invite someone first to start up a new squad. They added some stuff to the Bastion Fleet Carriers model, giving it some collision mesh, so you can walk on it and stuff like that. And there are a whole bunch of other little changes that we got on the PTS as well. Again, the biggest thing, obviously, is the ASP, followed by the pistol changes, followed by some of these vehicle adjustments. So head on over to the PTS and play around with that ASP. All right, fourth and final topic this week is the new implant names. Now, these were just teased on the live stream, like I said earlier. They didn't go into each and find out what each of them all do. But I wanted to read the names and give everybody an idea of what some of these new implants that are coming to the game are going to be. And again, they are all class specific implants again. So we have the first round of them. Now we're going to actually have a second round of them. And the names of them are going to be Mending Field is the first one. People are speculating that it's probably a health regen effect, or it could be a repair regen effect. We're not really sure. Next is Mobility Mesh, most likely heavy assault specific. Thinking maybe it's going to remove the movement penalty for heavy assault overshields. No one really knows, though. Salvage is going to be potentially a max specific one. We don't know exactly what it's going to do. There's going to be a new one called Paratrooper. We're assuming it's going to be light assault specific. No definite on what it's going to do. Next one's called Electrotech. We're guessing this one's probably an engineer-related one. Who knows what that's going to do. Cut Purse is the next one. Sounds very knife-related. People are assuming right now that it's probably a cross-class implant. Firestorm is another one. I'm guessing that it's probably going to be an AoE damage on death. I mean, if you've played like Overwatch or Dirty Bomb, Overwatch Junkrat drops these little grenades when he dies. In Dirty Bomb, Nader drops little grenades when she dies. So potentially Firestorm, something like that. That would be nice. Accurize is the next one. No one knows what that one's doing yet. Gunslinger, people are assuming maybe faster secondary equip times on that one. It would make sense, especially with the pistol changes coming. Fortify, we don't know what that one's going to do. Survivalist, we don't know what that one's going to do. Firewall is a new rare implant. We don't know what that one's going to do. And finally, Broodmother is the last rare implant. It's got a picture of a spider on it. No one really knows exactly what that one's going to be. I would guess maybe something like being able to drop squad beacons faster or more. Not really sure. But again, I just wanted to run through the names of them to let you all know what they are. And we'll obviously hear more about them as we get further along in the month of April. I'm excited for them. I still don't even have all of them unlocked on my other characters, but if some of these are cool, I'll definitely use them. So obviously listen to every week, and once they announce what these all do, I will give a much better, more in-depth discussion on them. But with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
And I did get one email this week, and it was from Matt9. And Matt9 writes, Derringer, it's been a while, but I still listen and play the game. I count on you to keep me up to speed on PS2 and appreciate every episode you do. Looking forward to hearing your take on the ASP. I'm sure you covered it in this episode. Still hunting for that Derringer pistol. I'll get it eventually. Thanks for your hard work for the game and community. Matt9. Matt, thanks for the quick email there. Yeah, as you heard, I did cover everything about ASP, some of my thoughts on it as well. Again, I'm man enough to admit that I was wrong on last week's show in hoping that it wasn't a prestige system. And I'm actually kind of excited for it and looking forward to see what it does when it comes in live and I'm able to start unlocking stuff on it. As for the Derringer pistol, good luck getting it. A lot of people ask me how to get the Derringer pistol. In fact, somebody asked me in the middle of, after I killed them in game, they said, how do you get that? And just to reiterate how to get the Derringer pistol, first of all, you need to own one of the underboss pistols. It can be just the regular one, it can be the gold one, it can be the black one. It doesn't matter. You have to at least own one of the Derringer pistol, one of the underboss pistols. Next, you have to participate in an alert. You have to be you have to be the faction that launched the meltdown alert, and you need to win the meltdown alert. You also need to participate in that alert for 90% of the time. And then, if you win, you have a very, very, very small chance of earning the NS357 IA Derringer pistol. So again, everybody who's been asking, that's how you get it. Similar to get the Showdown, except you need to own a Black Hand, and similar to unlock Nick's camo, except the only caveat there is that the alert has to actually happen on Hassan. So hopefully that answers the question that everybody has on those. But again, Matt, thanks for the email, and thanks for listening. That is going to be it, though, for this week's show. So how can you get in touch with me of the show? As always, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Email me, like Matt9 did, instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, 347-4VM-4PS2 or 347-486-4772. My show's Twitter is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. So in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.
Get your arms combined.